I'll mention the youth work on the back end of the self-build. Because I was being paid as the project coordinator for the self-build, what happened in 1991 when they had that negative equity within the housing world, there was about 3 months when I was being paid, but I couldn't do nothing with the self-build because of this housing bubble. And how are we now going to fund it? Because we were going to get funded by the provincial and they had gone belly up. So it was about shuffling around and looking. I had some free time and I actually came back from a conference, a self-build conference, and was up at the pub, went to the local pub to have a little drink after coming off the train. And there was a group of young people there, sat down in some bushes and they were stoning cars. And I thought to myself, well, why are you doing that? So I went over and sat down with them. I said, what are you doing that for? Well, there's nothing for us to do. Where is there anything for us to do? Which actually touched a nerve with me, because going back to 1975, when I was locked up for bonfire night and involved in all of that, it reminded me of the time when the older generation used to open the churches and them places for us to go as young people, as kids. I listening to them and I said, well, what do you want? What do you like? And they says, we want to meet the man because we want to get the community centre opened. So I managed to secure getting them, the leader of the council, to come and meet with them up at the community centre. And it was a time when in Chapeltown when we had a lot of petty crime, petty robberies going on. Little ladies were being robbed of their purses and stupid things were going on. So I sat down with these young guys and I managed to get the leader of the council to come meet with them. They said, what do they want? We said, well, we want this community centre opening. We want it open from 10 at night till 2 in the morning, 2 nights a week. The majority of these guys were actually 16, 17-year-olds who'd finished school and they were just saying there was no activities. The generic youth delivery finishes at about 9:30. If you go into most cities, youth clubs finish at like about 9 o'clock. And then what do the kids do? And also back then, back to 92 when we did this, the youth service didn't work over the summer holidays. They didn't work over the Easter holidays. They worked during term time. So what they would do, they would work 1 week at the beginning of summer and 1 week at the end of summer. So it seemed quite crazy that a youth delivery service that only then used to work 44 weeks a year. Anyway, we decided collectively to create this group called the Chapeltown Young People's 10 to 2 Club. The regular youth work was being delivered up until 9 o'clock. What would happen is after 9 o'clock, the kids would be still on the street, especially in the summer, you know, when it's warm. And these kids that were over 16, they didn't have to go home at 9 o'clock. They were 17, they might have been at college, blah, blah, blah. So we created the Chapeltown Young People's Club, which was 2 nights a week, a Wednesday night and a Friday night to help break up the week. And it was really quite strange because we then were visited by this guy who worked for the tech who told us that there was only one other youth provision in the world that he knew that functioned at that time, and it was in Chicago. We went on a pilgrimage in the sense of I spent 2 years asking young people what they wanted. What did they want to see? How did they want to see the community? What was their view? So I gathered their information, and one of the things that became really evident was they felt that within the community, young people were always pushed round the back. They were never up front. So what they wanted to see was a provision on the high street which was for young people, because they felt that on the high street they were seen as interference. You lot stay round the back, don't come round the front. We created the Young People's Club. We then went on to get some funding to open the first high street internet access point in the city of Leeds, which actually became the first community internet cafe for Leeds as a city. And we opened that on the 4th of January 2000, so it was our Millennium Project. So we created Chapeltown Young People's Club, the Yes Cyber Project, which was really quite good because it was in partnership with Thomas Stanby College, which meant more of our young people had a good access to Thomas Stanby College. Thomas Stanby College was a local college, but it didn't have many BME people as staff, so it gave us an opportunity for some of our members actually to go on and become staff of the local college. We then started to develop because the older young people actually wanted to do activities for the younger young people. So we started running summer programs during the 6 weeks holidays, because I personally believe the biggest corrupter of young people is the 6 weeks school holidays, especially in disadvantaged and poor areas where parents can't get the time off. Some of them are putting in as much hours as they can to keep things to the family together. And what happens historically looking back, that's the time when kids run amok. You finish school for 6 weeks, if you've not got your grannies to go to, and we as a new generation to society here, we didn't have our grandmothers. Our English counterparts, for example, they'd got their grannies in the summer, so they live in my street, my English little friends, but in the summer their parents would still go to work, but they'd go around to their grandmothers 2 streets down. We started to run activities during the summer holidays, so we set up an activity program that every summer holidays we would run at least 3 weeks of activities during the summer holidays. So we'd say the first week it's the responsibility of the parents. The next 3 weeks, we'll take on the responsibility. Then there's 2 weeks before they go back to school. The 2 weeks become the responsibility of the parents. But the week before, you're really having to get your children back into a mindset that they're going back to school. The Government Connections program came in, which was probably the most energizing youth financing program I've ever seen in my life. And we had West Yorkshire Connections, which would give money to small groups to develop stuff around young people. And we did some fantastic work. We put the kids through volunteering, where they were volunteering at the local old people's home, at local projects, volunteering to employment, where they could get a feel of what it was like to give something back to their community. We ran other programs during school holidays, where we sent them on residentials. We did a series of residentials looking at what young people thought. We were quite impressed that young people are quite interested in whether there's a lollipop man to help the younger kids get across the road after school. One of my biggest findings with young people in some of that research was that young people feel that adults are only interested in their own children. They're not interested in young people. Most parents, as long as their kids are okay, they're okay. Young people actually do want to help other young people. So the 10 to 2 club, we then moved into the Mandela Centre, where the young people wanted to set up their own youth club, because what we found out was that the statutory services would work Monday to Thursday, but on a Friday there was no youth club, because the council ran youth clubs Monday night, Tuesday night, Wednesday night, Thursday night, up until 9 o'clock, but they didn't do nothing on a Friday. The young people came together, created Project 7, which was opening on a Friday night. We'd open a normal youth club up until 10 o'clock on a Friday night. Then they were interested in saying, well, over a weekend there's no services, so we started to run a little youth club on a Saturday afternoon between 1 and 4 o'clock. So parents, if they were going shopping, could leave their kids with us for a couple of hours while they got off on a weekend. So the young people were quite imaginative on how youth work and how services to young people should be delivered. It was quite interesting. Obviously, at the age that they were, they couldn't take responsibility, so you had to have appropriate adults that were part of it. So me and my team would be the appropriate adults, but empower them to run the service. They ran the tuck shop, they signed everybody in, they took responsibility. So Chapeltown Young People's Club was about giving young people an opportunity to have a say in what services they get delivered to them. Then they came up with an after school club, so we used to do numeracy and literacy study a couple of nights a week after school for those kids that needed it. It was quite an energizing period in my life, because I wanted the Chapeltown Young People's Club to be the voice of young people in Chapeltown, and they very much were so. Many of them went on to university, and some of them now, after going on to university, have come back to the community. They've been to university, they've come back to the community, and they're older now, they've got a child themselves, and they actually get involved in the community. So the work that we did with them when they were 15, 16, 10 years later, it's paid off because they then remember the times that we spent with them, and they now want to do some of that, because that was going to be one of the questions young people always used to ask me. How do you get a job like you've got? When I get older, I want a job like you. The Chapeltown Young People's Club changed the way young people had services delivered to them in Chapeltown, and empowered some of them. Quite a few of them now are actually working for the youth service or working in youth delivery. In February 2011, a TV crew, I think they came from ITV, came to visit Chapeltown, and they were talking about it's 30 years since the riots of 1981, and they was asking us, do we think things had changed? And it was quite ironic because they came and interviewed me in the February of that year, and I was saying that personally I think that the austerity cuts had started to come in 2011, and the government was talking about cutting services to young people. And I'd said I thought that we were in a position where all the ingredients were there for us to have riots again 30 years on. And I said that in February of that year, only to be pulled in by a Leeds City Council officer who has seen my interview on the local TV to say to me, he thought in his wisdom that the interview I had just given could have been seen as inciting for future riots. This is in February. I was just giving my view after 30 years working with young people, listening to the way they felt. Okay, that's February. In the August of that year, are there not riots right across Britain, except in Chapeltown? And I'll come back to that. So you better believe I ran back to his office after the riot of 2011 and asked him a question. I said, do you feel I incited the riots in London? I incited the riots in Manchester. I incited the riots in Sheffield. I incited the riots in Birmingham, because they all happened. He just was lost for words. Chapeltown was the only black community nationally that never rioted, because we had a half-decent relationship with our police officers, because from the 10 to 2 club, I sit on the gangs and drugs prevention group in Leeds. And we had a very good relationship with the police in a fashion. So what happened was, it was quite ironic. The Mark Duggan thing happened in London the Saturday. The Sunday and the Monday, it was all over national TV that London was rioting. Now, what happened in Leeds was on that Monday, a young black guy was shot by an Asian guy in Chapeltown. So you've got the national thing going on with Mark Duggan, and areas of Britain starting to get quite volatile because it was school holidays, all the kids are off, blah, blah, blah. Now, there came this situation, so our riot in Leeds potentially wasn't going to be because of Mark Duggan, but because this young guy got shot, then there was a group of young people that were quite upset, because what happened when the young guy got shot, this is the same Monday that they're rioting all over Britain. The police came to where the shooting was, and the police brought police dogs, and a police dog set about 2 kids. So it set about a 13-year-old, bit of his legs up and everything. So the young people in Leeds were on the brink of rioting because of the police dog attack on one of their young friends, not because of the Mark Duggan thing. So that same day you had a car ploughed into some Asians in Birmingham, and there was all that going on. But in Leeds, it was quite funny. So this police dog had attacked this young boy, so the kids decided they wanted to go and they were going to have a thing with the police. And we were called up to the police station. It was, and again, by a police woman, Melanie. Melanie was the officer that was in charge that day. She was quite a senior female police officer. And she called us up to the police station. When we went up to the Chapeltown police station, they had all the riot police in the back of the thing and everything. The Home Secretary had said that they will give all the police all the support that they need to quell this disturbance nationally. So when we went up to the police station, this is about 11 o'clock that night, There was an army of police officers up there, all kitting up in their gear, in their anti-riot gear, shields and everything. So we was invited up there by Melanie, this senior police officer. And we asked her if we could have an hour to go and speak to the young people, because the young people were barricading off the streets. Whilst we was up there, we could see them. They'd grabbed a takeaway delivery guy in a little micro, grabbed him out of his car, taken his pizzas off of him, taken his car off, and we could see this in the police station on the camera. So we asked this officer, please give us an hour to see if we can go and talk these kids down, because it was getting to 11 o'clock, and some of these kids, in my mind, where's their parents? They should be at home, but because it was summer's night, it was warm, it was school holidays, they were out on the street. So she gave us an hour. We asked her to give us an hour where we could go down and speak to the young people. And because we worked with the young people and had been working with them at youth club, at summer program, they were willing to listen to us. So we went down and we had a big discussion. We said, listen, the only losers can be in this is you. Because what will happen is, you'll throw the bricks at the police, you'll smash windows, you'll smash cars, but in 3 days, they'll be kicking off all your doors. And you'll all eventually, because I'm a product of it. When I was 15, I went through this process. I know what happens. And you don't win. And I also believe, fortunately for us in Chapeltown, we didn't have a Foot Locker on the high street. We didn't have a mobile phone shop, a Vodafone shop on our high street. We didn't have a Comet or a Curry's on our high street. So there was no situation where people could, let's go and do it because we're going to rob TVs, or we're going to rob hi-fis, or we're going to rob mobile phones, or we're going to rob trainers. There was nothing. If there had have been, do I think we could have stopped them young kids? No, I don't. But because there was no advantage to them whatsoever in rioting with the police that night, because when we went back in and we was watching the London and Birmingham riots, people were grabbing 28, 50-inch TVs going down the road, trainers, stuff like that. I don't think what me and Lou Tell did was anything massively great on reflection. I think our area didn't lend itself like some of them high streets in London and Birmingham did. It was quite interesting because we had government home office, all kinds of people coming and visiting us and interviewing us and asking us, Chapeltown doesn't riot everywhere else what's so special about Chapeltown not rioting? You know something, even though we stopped that riot, the community ended up worse off. I almost believe in my heart we should have just let them run riot, because maybe that would have brought funding in. Because we stopped them rioting, actually the system continued with its austerity, cuts. The 10 to 2 club, we were getting a small amount of funding from Leeds City Council, which would act as our core funding, which would help us attract other funding. They removed that from us, so then that stopped us having the attraction of getting other funding, so we shut the 10 to 2 club down. And I shut it down after 22 years. I had to close it down because I wasn't going to allow all the good work that we had done to be wasted because we couldn't deliver quality. I suppose that was the most disappointing thing for me out of them riots. We stopped our young people rioting and had to end up closing down my organisation.